Hello, and welcome to today's session on leveraging ArcGIS for Office and ArcGIS for SharePoint. My name is Andrew Stoffer, and I'm the product manager for the Microsoft Integration suite of products here at Esri. So for this presentation, the way that we've structured this is just to go over some general SharePoint concepts. We're going to talk about how to install ArcGIS Maps for SharePoint, which is our classic version, and then ArcGIS for SharePoint, which is our modern version, supporting Microsoft's modern version of SharePoint that is coming out. We'll see a demo of the modern interface, and then we'll also talk about using ArcGIS for Office. Now, before we go too far, one of the first things I like to point out is with your Microsoft 365 subscription, you have access to some of the world's most powerful business applications. And we can enhance all of these applications with an ArcGIS account, from Power BI to Teams to SharePoint into Office, or even with SharePoint and OneDrive. An Esri account helps you get more out of the data, helps you visualize more, helps you share more, helps you really enrich the information and everything that you're going and working with a geographic context. So just a quick background on SharePoint. This is software at a high level that allows organizations to build websites. These could be public websites, these could be internal websites for specific projects, departments, whatever it be. And in the backbone behind this website building technology, all of it lives on a web server. There can be a database which maintains lists, which is like a table of data, or even files. So I have Word documents or PDF documents describing detailed building plans or planning and zoning information for a particular community. All of that information in those files may be shared somewhere in the backbones of SharePoint. And SharePoint itself has an online version that's bundled with your Microsoft 365 subscription, or there is an on-premise version with SharePoint Server. Now, when we look at SharePoint, there's just these high-level concepts where we have a farm, which is the overall where everything lives, kind of like that overall web server tier. And then we can go down and we actually have a web application. And within each application, we have site collections. Now, this is important because the farm is where we have the highest administrative level. But as we get down into the site collection, this is where we can get more granular with our permissions of who's allowed to do what. So I can go ahead and have a admin of a site collection be able to actually work with the ArcGIS for SharePoint product. Or I can limit that capability as well. So I have that control as an admin. And then once I get in the site collection, as it would we can logically assume here, site collection contain many sites. If we go a step deeper here and look at a site, it's a website that contains pages and parts. So we can have a home page, we can have additional pages. Within each page, we might have a hero image across the top. We may have some charts that we want to show, links to other documents. Again, a map that's actually geo-enabling some of the SharePoint data and lists that are working in the background. And the way that we expose, whether it's the data or a chart or a weather map or something like that, is through these different parts. And the parts come together to make a page. Now that we have a really high-level understanding of SharePoint, we can take a look at ArcGIS Maps for SharePoint. So the goal here is that it brings ArcGIS and the power that we have within the system into Microsoft SharePoint. And one of the key things that the product does is it can geo-enable data on the fly. So there's a locate workflow where we can take flat data and put it on a map and provide that geographic context so that way it becomes more understandable, or we see other layers with that particular data set, and it makes more sense to tell a complete picture of what's going on. Now, ArcGIS Maps for SharePoint works online and with on-premise SharePoint deployments, but the important thing to point out here is the SharePoint on-premises deployments is going to support the classic mode only at this time. And evolving forward, we're going to be working with the modern SharePoint framework, and that will only be available online with your Microsoft 365 subscription. And we'll be seeing a demo of this later. Now, in use cases, there's tons of organizations out there that are using SharePoint as a central data repository. We're keeping customer records, we're keeping asset records, all of this content is in there, as well as documents that might be describing particular things about the asset, whether it's spec details or purchase agreements. All of these documents can live there, as well as tabular data. And ArcGIS Maps for SharePoint, we can do some simple mapping and analysis in a familiar UX, trying to easily bring SharePoint data into ArcGIS. So it's in a very simple way, spatially enable this data to be used in a geographic context. Now for installation and setup, just a couple high-level notes here. Supported environments, we talked about online, which is part of your Office or Microsoft 365 subscription. If you're using the on-premises versions of SharePoint, 2013, 16, and 19 are supported. When we think about what versions of ArcGIS are we working with, this goes all the way back to 10.5 or higher. Once you have your ArcGIS and you're ready to move forward, what type of login do we need? We need at least a Creator Plus. So a Creator or a GIS professional automatically has access to the Office Apps bundle, which enables them to go ahead and author maps and use the web parts in your SharePoint site. Now I hit on this briefly. So when we look at the granularity of permissions, the farm admin can do everything, the site collection admin can do everything, and we have a site owner group or a site member group where they can do a little bit less, and then a visitor, somebody who's coming to view the page, maybe they can't actually manage the extension, but they can actually view it and work with it, right? Now we look at some of the different workflows here. We talk about getting started and building the page, and then putting the map web part in here. It can access all the content you have in ArcGIS. So if you have other layers within your GIS that you want to add to the map, you can do that. If you need to add a weather layer from ArcGIS Online or the World Traffic Service, you can add that in. And then we can also connect to SharePoint lists and display those as layers within ArcGIS. I've mentioned this a couple times. We can geocode the SharePoint list data on the fly. So every time a new customer record is entered or a asset location is entered, we can immediately geocode that and display it on the map. Now, components of the actual product, ArcGIS Maps for SharePoint. Here we have the web part, which provides this interactive display, the locate workflow, which does that geo enablement that I've been talking about, and then the search app part. How does it search through your data to find the relevant information that the end user is looking for? Now, the Maps web part, we'll take a look at this here. This is the classic view, and this classic view shows access to content from ArcGIS. We can add layers, we can do some restyling of it. And again, I need to log in if I'm going to be authoring any of these maps and layers, or if I'm going to be sharing some of these layers back to my GIS. But if I'm going to just be viewing and all of the information is public, it's anonymous access, I don't need any other additional permissions. Now, continuing on the classic web part, this is part of the SharePoint experience. It's in edit mode when I can go ahead and add the map. I can interact with it and style my layer, add additional layers. If I want to do some simple analysis, I can do that, or if I need to edit the data, I can do this here as well. And then I can share any maps and layers that I create here back to my GIS. So again, high-level preview here of what we're seeing in the classic bits. Here's where I add my data, my TOC, and changing transparency. Anything that involves authoring the map within my SharePoint site. A couple of the analysis tools that are here, great. It's always lovely to see heat maps and hotspots. But more importantly, once I do something with my data from SharePoint, maybe I want to go ahead and publish this and its layers to ArcGIS. or I want to update an existing feature later in ArcGIS based on this geo-enablement that's happening within SharePoint. And that's a really big feature. And all of this is kind of backed by this locate workflow. So this is how we take that SharePoint list and geocode the data on the fly. And every time there's new records, we'll either geocode it by address, or if we're just going to look at like city zip, or if we have custom location types, we can dig into that. So pretty simple of how we can start to, again, geo-enable this data. Or if I have line and polygon data, there's ArcGIS location and shape will be added into my list there. Just another option here is when I'm doing this locate, every time I get a customer record, or maybe I'm in a public safety scenario, somebody calls in, we can automatically enrich the data on the fly. So as we're taking this flat record, we're putting it on a map and geo-enabling it, I can append attributes to it. So this can be everything from population and health to income, marital status, supply and demand. Maybe I'm tracking my customers because I'm running a retail location and I want to know expendable income in a certain area. All of this can happen automatically as part of the process, and it occurs in the background. Now, if I don't have a list already, what are some other things that I can do? Well, we can actually just tie directly into Microsoft SQL Server, and we can retrieve the data there, bring it into SharePoint. We can create the SharePoint list that is linked to the SQL Server data, and then we can geocode that list, display it as features on the map, and do all of the great things that we were just talking about. The search app part, pretty basic here. I can enable this within the application, and this allows somebody to go ahead and search for features within the map. But not only can they find features within the map, we can also configure this, and we'll be able to search and find documents that are geotagged to a specific location. So if I'm looking for building permits of a particular section of a subdivision, I'd be able to search that on a map and return Word docs and PDFs. Again, here's the highlight of associated documents. Being able to search these, find them in a map, great. We can see the results over here on the left of the different documents I can open up in the search results there. Now, we've seen a lot about the classic, but we're going to shift gears and take a look at the technical preview, which is the modern experience and the modern framework that we're working with within SharePoint Online. This has been a huge project for the development team, and something that we're looking forward to releasing in the middle of 2021 this year. So this is going to be a unified experience, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in the next few slides. But this whole mapping experience is built on the ArcGIS for JavaScript API 4x technology. So we're using, at this publication date, 4.19. And this is going to enable us to leverage the WebGL components and really enhance the mapping experience here. So instead of me just talking about this over some slides, let's turn it over to Na to walk us through a technical demo and show us how all of the different features and functions work within the new modern mapping component. Na?
Hello everyone, hope you are doing great. My name is Na Zhang, and I'm one of the developers of Maps for SharePoint team. We have exciting news for you in this coming release. We have implemented the new web map part by using the SharePoint framework and the latest ArcGIS Online API. The new web map part has SharePoint modern new look and a bunch of cool features. Now let's take a look what we have here. As you may notice, we have a bunch of floating buttons on the map here. And we have search button. We can search the location for you. Yes. And then we have add data from SharePoint and add data from ArcGIS Online to a map here. And we have base map gallery. You can switch the base map, and we also have the profile. We can show you a cool icon here. You can sign out from here. And we have zoom in, zoom out. We can fold or unfold all the buttons here. And if you have the editor access, actually you can adjust the appearance of the map. For example, we can switch to 800, switch, and let me switch back. And we can also choose which map controls you want to show up or show or hide. Yes. Okay, and now let's dive deeper to our major part here. Add data from SharePoint list or add data from ArcGIS Online. Let's add data from SharePoint list first. So now we support add points to the map, add polyline and polygon to the map. So from here, you can see we have 46 items under this current subsite or the list here. And some of them are geo enabled, but some of them is not geo enabled. So for those not geo enabled lists, we are unable to add them to the map. From the filter panel, we can see if we want to show geo enabled lists only, we can click this button, 27 items. And we can also show all of them, 46 items, right? Okay, and we can sort all the lists from A to Z too. Okay, and now I'm going to add a layer to the map. So I have my US high schools data list in my current site. And I want to load this data to the map. As you can see, we have all items list view, and we have a first 600 list of view. And I create this first 600 view myself. So as you can see, that only shows first 600 schools. Now I want to add these first 600 schools to the map. And I can remove them very easily. And I want to add them back. And I also want to add all items. That's all of them. Right? Yes, very cool. Okay, now let's go back. Here, if I want to hide this one, on this one, show this one, I can hide each of there. I can show them. Yeah, and here I'm going to style it a little bit. We have those features here: zoom to, rename, copy, and remove the layer. And we can also configure the pop-ups. So I'm going to choose a header for it, school name, and I'm also going to adjust properties here. So after that, if I click on school, we can see the school name, the rank. Yeah, that's my pop-ups. And I can also go to the items, go to that school by click that button directly. Okay, cool. Okay, now I'm going to style it a little bit more. So I'm going to choose a different icon from here, symbol style. I'm going to choose a school icon from here, and I'm going to adjust opacity here. So I'm going to choose the rank here. Then we can see that's all my high schools in the US. And next, I'm going to add another layer from ArcGIS Online. I'm going to add a layer from Living Atlas. And you can see I can adjust the format here, and I can search. I'm going to use COVID-19 data here. Okay, I'm going to search. Okay, here is our COVID-19 cases in US. That's the data. That's the layer. Okay, I'm going to add this layer to the map. Add to the map. Okay, very cool. As we can see, when we click pop-up, we can see this is Hawaii, and we have the data last updated at February 7th. And then we have confirmed the cases, recovered cases, deaths. So that's the COVID-19 cases. I hope everyone is doing great, doing okay in this specific COVID-19 pandemic. I hope everybody is fine. Okay, now let's adjust this a little bit more. Yes, I can bring this high school on top of the COVID-19 layer. Yeah, that will make it more clear. And I'm going to adjust this COVID-19 layer. I'm going to make it be a heat map. So I'm going to choose a color, and I'm going to adjust the radius a little bit. Okay. So now let's go back. Yeah, That's much better. We can see all the high schools across United States, and we can see all the COVID-19 hot maps. Some area like California, like here Florida, has really serious cases. Yeah. Okay. Okay. That may cover most of it. And I have one more feature we can show here. I'm going to add another layer, which is from my organization. I have a hurricane data, Katrina. Okay, Katrina is hurricane data. As we can see, that's the layer, and I'm going to add it to the map. Okay, let's take a look. That's all the dots on the map, and I'm going to style it a little bit. Let's go to the styling, and I'm going to choose this one, and I'm going to change icon from here. I'm going to use arrows. Okay, and I'm going to adjust the size a little bit, make it bigger. Okay, good. And I'm going to adjust the opacity from here. Let's enable the opacity, and I'm going to choose the speed as the attribute. So we can see, okay, we can identify the speed by the opacity. And then I'm going to choose the rotation. I'm going to choose a direction here. So now we can see the direction of the hurricane. Okay, now let's take a look. Very cool. Here, through the layer, we can identify the speed of the hurricane. We can identify the direction of it. So it's very cool. Okay, I think I covered most of features I want to introduce here. And that's all. If you have any questions, please contact our team. And I hope everybody enjoyed it. And please stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you for that demonstration, Na. And now we want to go in and talk about ArcGIS Maps for Office. So this is an add-in that we can install, and it will add a option within Excel and PowerPoint to interact with ArcGIS content. So I can go ahead and embed screenshots or live maps within PowerPoint, and I can take data within Excel and do things like geocode it, enrich it, do some info or provide some infographics on that map, all within a tool that I'm comfortable and familiar working with, or I have been working with for years, and it's all part of my Microsoft 365 subscription. So some of the different use cases of why somebody might use Maps for Office, gotta be honest, this isn't really for the GIS professional. This is for somebody else who's on the outside. They manage a lot of data, they're managing that data in Excel, and there's a spatial component to it. So we're starting to meet them with maps. They're starting to get interested in maps. They have data that has an address, data that has a XY location, data that has a boundary that they can go ahead and match on. So these aren't GIS savvy people, but they have geographic data. And by empowering them with ArcGIS Maps for Office, they're able to take their spreadsheet data, and in addition to working with all the powerful charting capabilities, conditional formatting, pivot tables, all of this great stuff, they can now build and create maps. So they're authoring maps directly within Excel. And once they've made that map, they can go ahead and publish that map to their ArcGIS system. So whether it's hosted online or it's managed on premises with Enterprise. And as their data is changing, it could be data that's working with a web query and it's pulling down and updating within Excel every hour, every day, once a week, or it's data that they're pulling from another subsystem. And once that changes, it'll update the map, and the end user can actually go ahead and publish, and it will update all the data that they have in their hosted feature layer. Again, whether it's implemented in online or enterprise. So now we're able to take these analysts and information workers that are spending their time in Excel visualizing data, trying to find meaning out of it. We've empowered them with the ability to make some maps and share those layers, author layers, create GIS layers from Excel and share it into our portals. And we've talked about this a lot, is this modern experience. And this is going to be coming soon in ArcGIS for Office. So this will be a common user interface and user experience from Power BI to Excel to SharePoint. All of our Microsoft users are going to have the same look and feel when they're working with this common map as they're creating layers, generating more and more content to get more understanding out of their data. So, thank you for coming and listening to our presentation today, and we'd love to hear from you. When you have a moment, please provide your feedback for this session by clicking the link below. Thank you.